Look at me, I'm looking all Celtic Christian-y, look. Do, dominator, do, dominator, dominator, dominator. Okay, much better. Have you noticed all these druids who dress up like Anglican bishops? And this is a different topic, but all those druids who dress up like Anglican bishops. Do you ever see them around Stonehenge at the solstice and everything? They look like they should be on songs of praise. Do you ever notice them? Ever see them? These white things with like they look just like Presbyterian, like Anglican ministers or bishops. The Lord is my boner. Anyway, speaking of cosplay spirituality, okay? Let's talk about the Celtic Christians. Now, occasionally I will get some well-meaning person who says to me, Thomas, you know, you're right about the Catholic Church and all this, but I'm a Celtic Christian because that's the true Christianity. Well, let's talk about that. That's like saying, you know, you're still worshipping a foreign god. But that's okay, I don't care who you worship. That's your own business, your life. If I'm gonna sneeze a lot, I'm fucking dying from hay fever. So anyway, Celtic Christianity, right. So there's this notion out there, put out there mainly by, well, fellas, crossplay druids who dress like Anglican bishops, that the Celtic Christianity was the real Christianity, whatever that is. Now, the real Christianity is Judaism. Okay, let's get that out of the way first. Now, so they say, well, the Celtic Church, it had a better alignment with Celtic peoples than the later Catholicism that came along and basically absorbed it into the Catholic Church at the Whitby Synod in England. And let's talk about that. So, Celtic Christians were so Celtic because they practiced the Sabbath. Yes, they held kosher. Yes, they practiced circumcision. And they are the original ones who came up with the term bishop. And back in those days, just about anyone was a bishop. It had not been, everyone in the Celtic Church was a bishop. And you know what bishop translates as? Rabbi. Not looking very Celtic now, is it? Now, there was a book that came out in the 80s called How the Irish Saved Civilization. How the Irish Saved Civilization. And they're wrong. Oh, we have to be fucking great. Aren't we Irish wonderful? Jesus, holy blade, Jesus, Mary, blade, Joseph and Mary. We saved civilization. Europe would have been fucked without us. Aren't we fucking great, Father? Aren't we fucking great, right? This shite, right? The real title of that book should be called How the Irish Saved the Talmud. That's the real title. That's the real title of that book. There is almost nothing saved by Irish monks, Celtic Christian monks. Right? Almost nothing, right? I'm actually getting turned on by the flagellation. I'm only messing. And it was all. If you look at the great texts that were saved, the great ecclesiastical texts, one of them, the missal for the first or second missal for Ireland, it actually states that we are here in Ireland to preach to and convert the Irish, wait for it, Gentiles. Oh, you weren't told that one in school, were you? And that was kept out of the book. And what great classical literature is in the book? Well, the story of Ezekiel, the bloodline of King David, the Song of Solomon. So Celtic, so richly pure and Celtic. Now, that's what the Celtic Church were. In fact, the amazing irony is that when the Celtic Church was absorbed into Catholicism, it actually got more pagan. There was actually more paganism and there still is, in mainstream Catholicism than there was in the Celtic Church. And so all the classical literature, nearly all of it, it wasn't saved, it just managed to survive. The last of the Greek scholars, and we should always be thankful. These were great Greek, the last of the the last of the Greek schools and symposiums, and we should, God bless you, the ancient Greeks. That when the Christians were burning Athens to the ground and carving crucifixes on top of, that came later actually, when they were smashing the noses off statues because they were demonic and unrabbinical, and tearing down pagan temples. The last of the symposia from ancient Greece gathered up whatever scrolls and literature they could, and they scampered to Persia. And that's what saved the classical literature. We would have nothing left if it wasn't for those elderly Greek scholars, philosophers, mathematicians, and scientists who picked up those scrolls and made their way to Persia. We'd have had nothing left. Nothing. They would have told us that the ancient Greeks were just like the ancient Irish, monkeys who lived in caves until the Christians came along. That's what they would have told us. And that's another thing that people forget, that there wasn't a very kind of like civilized, loving look of the Romans until Pompeii. When Pompeii came along, they could not hide the truth anymore. That these were more advanced people than what even in the 19th century when they were digging them up. And yeah, so Celtic Christianity wasn't Celtic, and the Irish did not save civilization. Well, they were. Now, this is what these Celtic Christians were. Well, Christianity is in its purest form: Second Temple, rabbinical Judaism, a reformation of Judaism caused by Jesus Christ, or the lot, those like 30 messiahs at the same time, whoever Jesus Christ was, with the amalgamation of those 30 messiahs in Jerusalem, who basically wanted a more pure form of the Talmud. Believe that or not, that's what they wanted, a more pure form of the Talmud, because they thought that the rabbis, you know, this whole thing when he goes to the temple, he throws the money over, that was a symbol for that they were too open-minded, they were too friendly with the Romans, they were too willing to compromise with others. This is why Jesus Christ called the Pharisee woman, I think it was the Pharisee woman, or the Samaritan woman, a dog. This is, you Christians never want to face that. You never want to face that, but it's in the Bible, it's in your own texts. And he was a fanatic. Now, it would be wrong to say that was the full story. You know me, I always try to say, you know, find a little grey area. And there was some interesting groups like the Chaldees. Now, the Chaldees were probably similar to the rabbis in the temple that Jesus Christ turned over the table. They were willing to compromise, and some of it would have been survival, and you know, fair play to them. We know probably the only reason we know about Irish mythology to this day, as corrupt as a lot of it is because of these Christian monks who said to the Druids who said to the Christians, okay, let's make a deal, let's have a deal. And you got from that the Irish File, which were were Druids in every way except they couldn't practice pagan religion. And the Chaldees were probably like that. There's some very interesting history, like when the Vikings attacked the monastery at Tala in Dublin, they killed all the Catholic monks, but they left the Chaldees alone. And I find that very interesting. The Chaldees were probably astute politically. They saw the power of the Roman Empire now they had with the Catholic Church, and they made a compromise. They played a game. And maybe that's not so bad, because they did save a lot. So, you know, it's not all black and white. Not by any means is it all black and white. But the Celtic Church, the so-called Celtic Church, was Judaism. Simple as that. I have no problem with Judaism. Well, nothing problem with that. It's just that I have a problem with people saying that is a more pure form of spirituality connected to the Druids. There's nothing of the source. It's right up there with those Egypts that dressed like Anglican bishops at Stonehenge during the solstice. It's right up there with that nonsense. And the Celtic Church, did it have anything good going for it? Not really, no. I mean, all those things that we associate with the Celtic High Cross and the Round Towers are probably almost certainly already in existence under the Romans, under the Druids and the pagans. And all they did was brought a load of texts from the Middle East and said this was yours. Now, this is another issue as well. They try to make out that, and I said this in the video yesterday, that these monks who had these skills to produce these incredible illuminated manuscripts like the Book of Durrow and the Book of Kells, and all this incredible silver work, that was all a product of Christianity. No, lads, that existed before you came along. These are probably culdees who were offered job, money, and contracts to actually make this stuff. And so it was like, the Irish are a nation of cute whores in many ways. And, you look how they took over America by the back door and how we play the EU. We like to, like, we try, we're good that way. We play the Egypts, but we're really smarter than people think we are. And so how are you doing? How are you? Sure, good morning to you. And behind that is a fucking computer. That's like a quantum mainframe couldn't keep up with. So you just the Irish mind inside, behind all the whole top of the morning to you. How are you doing? How are you? God bless us and love you. How are you? Behind that is gears whirring and a quantum computer. Half those people you meet when you're walking around Ireland as a tourist, you meet these fellas going, you want to know the road to Ballygiven? Well, the road to Ballygiven, you see the road up the right there. You see that? It turns three right, third left on the right, right? 1,600 yards around the mountain behind it. That's not how you go. And they think, oh, the Irish, they're all eccentric, they're all a bit fucking thick. And that guy is probably doing that, probably has an overseas property portfolio in Spain, a golf course in Dubai. And he's like, how are you doing? How are you doing? And that kind of thing. That's what we're like. That's what behind the paddywhackery is. That's what's going on. It's terrifying actually, and the people learn it to their, you learn it the good way or the hard way. But yeah, I guess you see that with me, that Velocity of Doubt show, right? I'm quite well read. I'm quite intellectual. I don't go around pandering like I'm an intellectual. I'll be quite happy doing that. I don't want that going. Now, sorry, yeah. But especially Americans, they think that's a sign you're not very intellectual behind there. If you're telling jokes or dirty jokes, that's it. No, we Irish are different. That's actually a sign. It's, watch Spike Milligan, and yeah. So it's like that. It's the Celtic Church were not in any way Celtic, just not. They just weren't. They were just a name that's given because they were there and they had the power on these islands before Catholicism absorbed them into the Synod of Whitby. Now, and that's the irony of, like I said, that the real irony there is that the Catholic Church was actually and still is much more pagan than what they were, and it's funny how how that kind of comes around. People have to stop disconnecting, especially Irish people, and thinking of Irish ways, disconnecting Irishness from Christianity, because they're two different things. Okay, in that John B. Keane field, there's a very profound moment. John B. Keane play called The Field. There's a very profound moment where the Irish American is trying to buy some land, and the Bull McCabe won't sell it, and he's talking to the Catholic priest, and the Catholic priest, with a look of disgust on his face, goes, "Don't for a minute think that these people are Christian." He goes, "Behind that shim of Christianity, on the surface of their skin, is a pagan soul." And that was a very profound moment. And what happened was, over the centuries, that the Irish flipped and started to think the Christian was on the inside and the pagan was gone. But that's all coming back now. It's all changing. That's all changing now. And this is what I would say. And this is another Astauru or Sturio that Nordic religion is called. That's unbelievably churchy. And someone else had mentioned this on one of the comments, and I mentioned it as well myself another time. It's all seems to be made of people that came from fundamentalist Protestant backgrounds. And all they're doing with this Astauri or Asturu or whatever the fucking thing is called, all they're doing with that, it's all churchy. You look at, they have church buildings. Even the guy he looks like a minister. We're back to this like cosplay, Anglican bishop trying to be a druid look again. Our ancestors did not. That when a temple was, the pagan temples, when you read about them in the classical world, and both in the Nordic and the Celtic pagan world, were much more like Hindu temples. You had icons or gods there that could help you visualize during a moment, and you went into sacrifice. There was no one at the top of the congregation going, "Dear brethren, we are gathered here today to worship Thor." That's literally what that religion is. And it wasn't like that. It was like Hinduism. You went in, you visited your icon of choice, you had your sacrifice, and then you went home. There was no congregationalism, and this is a huge issue with this whole stuff. They're all getting all real congregational like. So remember that the Celtic, you got to be very careful when you see anyone saying, "Oh, I've got this is a purest form of Christianity." It's a purest form of the Talmud. Uh, it was a mixture of Druidism and and Christianity. Ooh, no, that's called Catholicism. And if you're going to go that way, go become a Catholic, and. It's the Irish saved civilization. No, they didn't. They saved the genealogy of the King David bloodline, wrote it down. And if they saved civilization, they would have written down all the knowledge that was passed on orally. Because this is another thing as well. It's also a bigotry that they somehow, that was when the Irish learned how to read and write that they became civilized. No, oral tradition, and you see that in India as well, and all other countries, is the real way to pass knowledge. There's lots of cultures who believe that once it's written down, it's lost. The library is the collective library of the mind. That's the great library. This is the lesson. When the Christians burnt down the library of Alexandria, all that knowledge was lost because it was on paper, right? It's very hard to do that if everyone has a bit of it in their heads. Remember Fahrenheit 451, the end of the film, the end of the book? Everyone became a book, a living book. And that's really what Fahrenheit 451 is, a homage to the oral tradition and to the vulnerability of the written word. And that's ironically that's a nice finish to this video, because ultimately that's what damns the idea of Celtic Christianity, the written word. And what is their written word? Hebrew written in Latin. See ya. Dominum.